Picture a vast, silent industrial wasteland, wind howling through the rusting skeletons of machinery once hailed as the backbone of Britain's energy future. Now imagine this forgotten landscape roaring back to life, not with the black gold of oil, but with the unstoppable force of nature itself. Welcome to Cromarty Firth, northern Scotland. Here, history is being rewritten. Where once thousands built the platforms that powered Britain's oil and gas boom, a new generation is assembling the turbines that could light up Europe's green energy ambitions. But is it truly possible for a dying oil stronghold to transform into the beating heart of the UK's renewable revolution? Can vast promises of jobs, investment, and climate action become reality? Or will the ghosts of the past haunt these hopes? Over the next 20 minutes, we'll pull back the curtain on secret deals, engineering feats, and massive risks shaping the UK's most ambitious energy project. And at the end, we'll reveal the unresolved battle at the heart of this transformation. Who really wins, and what if it goes wrong? Let's rewind the clock. It's the early 1970s, and the Cromarty Firth and Moray Firth region is humming with excitement. Deepwater ports like Nigg and Ardersier are bustling, employing thousands. They're at the forefront of the North Sea oil rush, a feat of engineering and human ambition that put Scotland on the energy map. At its height, just the Ardersier yard alone had a payroll of 4,500. Nigg boasted the world's largest dry dock. These yards built the colossal offshore platforms that sent oil and gas south, fueling everything from warm homes to the City of London's financial might. The region thrived. But oil booms don't last forever. As fields matured and demand shifted, the great yards began to fall silent. By 2001, Ardersier, a 450-acre giant, had closed its gates, joining Nigg and other sites as part of the UK's largest swath of vacant industrial land. Thousands of jobs vanished overnight, entire communities left scrambling. For years, the question lingered, what do you do with a vast, abandoned oil yard that once powered a nation? Fast forward to today. The world is racing away from fossil fuels. Scotland, with its windswept coastline, is betting big on renewables. The government wants half of all national energy to come from clean sources by 2030, with a staggering 20 gigawatts of extra renewable power. Cromarty Firth is at the heart of this gamble. The plan? Transform brownfield industrial graveyards into supercharged hubs for offshore wind. And the numbers are eye-watering. Haventus, a major investor, locked in a $100 million loan to redevelop Ardersier Port. The port of Cromarty Firth secured $55.7 million for expansion under the UK government's Powering Up Britain scheme. Nigg and Ardersier together now anchor the UK's largest green engineering free port, spanning over 520 hectares. But money alone isn't enough. What sets Cromarty Firth apart is not just the investment, but the ambition. The region isn't just building wind farms. It's racing to manufacture the next generation of floating offshore wind turbines. Over 70 gigantic turbines, for the Aspen farm alone, will be assembled at Ardersier, destined for the deep, rough waters off the Aberdeenshire coast. This isn't just another port expansion. It's the UK's first attempt to create a true industrial cluster for floating wind, a technology that could be worth billions if the world's energy transition takes off. Luke Clark from Renewable UK calls this phase a new industry for Britain, predicting, this funding will transform the port of Cromarty Firth into the UK's first industrial hub for floating offshore wind, kickstarting a new industry. The hope is to birth a virtuous cycle, skilled jobs, new investments, technology spin-offs, and an economic lifeline for communities still scarred by oil's decline. Lewis Gillies, CEO of Haventus, is blunt. With their support, and that of Quantum, Ardersier Port is poised to become a critical offshore wind hub and an important job creator and enabler. But can these grand visions survive the hard realities? Let's talk about the scale of what's required. Floating wind turbines are not your average pinwheels. They're as tall as a skyscraper, and each one weighs thousands of tons. They need deep water, sprawling assembly quays, powerful cranes, and massive logistical coordination. The technology is impressive, but it's still new, risky, and expensive. There's a sense of urgency and anxiety. The UK government's FlowMIS scheme is pouring funds into infrastructure, but it's a race against the clock to get ports, factories, and grid connections ready before global competition snaps up the prize. As Scotland's First Minister John Swinney dramatically put it, Scotland's growing offshore wind capabilities present an era-defining opportunity to create thousands of green jobs and transform economies. Yet, not everyone is convinced. There are deep questions about whether the local workforce is ready for a high-tech transition after decades of industrial decline. Some worry that the promised jobs could evaporate or be filled by outside specialists. Others point to environmental concerns, dredging, construction, and the industrialization of scenic coastlines. Then there's the hard economics. Billions are being wagered on global demand for floating wind. But what if costs overrun? What if the electricity grid can't keep up, or if rival ports on the continent leapfrog ahead? Port of Cromarty Firth CEO Alex Campbell hails the ongoing expansion as a critical step towards creating the UK's first custom-built floating offshore wind integration port. But even he admits the challenges are tough. Regulatory red tape, public skepticism, supply chain gaps, and an energy grid not built for this scale. The numbers are enticing. The Havenport project alone could mean 4,000 direct jobs. If a full wind turbine manufacturing hub emerges, the entire region could become a magnet for new industries, components, robotics, training, and even green hydrogen. But there's a catch. All these gains depend on solving the bottlenecks. Grid capacity is limited, environmental approvals are strict, and coordination across dozens of players is a formidable task. Peter Ross, Billfinger project manager, summed up the local mood. Aspen project could involve about 70 turbines being handled at Ardersier. I think it's fantastic for the local area and for Scotland and UK. Yet in quiet corners, some skepticism lingers. What if this is just a rebound? A brief green boom that, like the oil rush before it, leaves communities high and dry when the world moves on again? There's also the international game. As the UK races to build its floating wind sector, Norwegian, German, and Asian rivals are hot on its heels. Delays or missteps could mean losing not just jobs, but entire industries to faster-moving competitors. And for all the promises of local prosperity, there's the nagging question: will the benefits really reach the people living in the shadow of these revived ports? Or will profits and decisions be pulled by distant investors? Scotland's leadership knows the stakes are high. Success could mean not just clean electricity, but a brand new chapter for a region long left behind. Failure could mean another round of lost opportunity, wasted millions, and broken dreams. As we stand at this crossroads, the fate of Cromarty Firth and its communities hangs in the balance. Can the fusion of old industrial muscle and next-gen technology really create a model for the world? Or will this grand experiment fall prey to the same forces that once brought the oil age to a close? Coming up, we'll dig deeper. Who stands to win or lose in this race, how the battle over jobs and investment is playing out, and whether Scotland can truly capture the wind before it slips through its fingers. Let's fast forward to the next decade. The Cromarty Firth's journey from a faded oil titan to the front line of green energy is already well underway, but the story is still being written. So what does the future hold here, and what are the big stakes not just for Scotland, but for the UK and, frankly, for the world? Right now, the optimism is real. Ports like Nig and Ardersier are roaring back to life, shaking off years of decline. You hear it in the new contracts, in construction noise, and in the pride of workers who are coming back after years of seeing the yards fall quiet. As Peter Ross, project manager at Billfinger, put it, Aspen project could involve about 70 turbines being handled at Ardersier. I think it's fantastic for the local area and for Scotland and UK. But behind the headlines, there's a complex, high-stakes game unfolding. The UK wants to be a world leader in floating offshore wind, an industry that barely existed just a few years ago. Cromarty Firth's transformation isn't just about installing a few turbines. It's about remaking the region's economy, its workforce, and its global standing. Let's imagine two diverging futures. In the first, things go right. The investments pay off, the new factories hum with activity, and young people return to the Highlands because the jobs are finally here again. The region becomes a global center, not just for building wind turbines, but for all the services, supply chains, and training that come with it. Scotland hits its target of 50% renewable energy by 2030, and the UK's grand climate pledges start turning into daily reality. This domino effect pulls in new industries. Maybe next it's battery manufacturing, green hydrogen, or advanced robotics. Cromarty Firth becomes a magnet for talent and ideas, and the green freeport status lures in international investment. As Lewis Gillies of Haventus said, Ardersier Port is poised to become a critical offshore wind hub and an important job creator and enabler. But let's be real, there's a second shadowed scenario. The risk is real that big promises run aground. What if global rivals, especially European and Asian wind giants, outpace UK manufacturers? What if new jobs don't go to locals, but to outside contractors? And what if the massive investments fail to trickle down, leaving some communities facing the same struggles, just with a different color on the cranes? There's also the challenge of scale. Floating wind is a leap beyond what's come before. The engineering is wildly complex. Each 15-megawatt turbine is as tall as a skyscraper, afloat on giant platforms, wired into a grid that's already straining under new demands. If supply chains stumble, or if the promised workforce can't materialize, the region could end up with unfinished projects and missed targets. And then there's the environment, a deep current in this story. Dredging harbors, building massive new quays and factories, and laying undersea cables can mean new pressures on fragile coastal ecosystems. The future prosperity of the region will depend on not repeating past mistakes from the oil and gas era. This time, the green transition has to be truly sustainable. So who really benefits? In the best case, local workers and businesses get first shot at new contracts. Schools and colleges adapt quickly, launching training programs that are world-class. The region's population stabilizes, even grows, reversing decades of decline. And those left behind by the oil crash get a second chance. But this outcome is not automatic. Experts like Andy MacDonald of SOEC warn, innovation projects can help grow Scotland's supply chain and speed up the delivery of green energy production, ensuring developers deliver benefits to local communities. That's a call to action, not a guarantee. We can't ignore the potential winners on a national and international level. If Cromarty Firth gets this right, the UK could export not only clean energy, but also expertise, technology, and policy leadership around the world. Picture engineers from NIG and Ardersier training teams in the US, Asia, and beyond. That could mean new markets, more foreign investment, and a place at the table for future global agreements on climate and industry. But, and it's a big but, if UK policymakers, investors, or local governments get complacent, the region could fall behind. As competition ramps up, especially with the US's massive Inflation Reduction Act and Europe's Green Deal, there's absolutely no room for slowdowns or missteps. There's also a question of what happens to those who are not directly part of this green wave. The oil and gas era left scars, brownfield sites, layoffs, even a sense of abandonment. Will the new era truly heal those wounds, or will it just paint over them with a new narrative, leaving behind those without the technical skills or connections to join in? Here's a fascinating twist. The green Freeport status brings both opportunity and risk. While it means lower taxes and fast-tracked development, it also opens the door to regulatory loopholes and possible community displacement if not managed transparently. History shows us that the benefits of big industrial revolutions don't always flow evenly. So how can regular people, residents, workers, students, and even viewers far beyond the highlands, use these lessons? What does Cromarty Firth's gamble mean for all of us? First, it's a masterclass in the power and the peril of industrial transformation. These shifts don't just happen to places. They're made by people, policies, and persistent choices. If your region is facing economic upheaval, look for the hidden strengths in local expertise, geography, and infrastructure. The Firth didn't win by accident. It fought to leverage its giant docks, skilled workforce, and political momentum. Second, and maybe most importantly, this story shows why it's crucial to demand a seat at the table. Whether you're a student, business owner, or concerned citizen, major transitions like this offer windows of opportunity when decisions are being made. The best outcomes happen when local voices are loud, organized, and prepared with real proposals, jobs guarantees, training programs, environmental protections, and transparent contracts. If you're in an industry facing disruption, Cromarty Firth is a warning and an inspiration. The region didn't just wait for outsiders to fix things. It lobbied for its own funds, built alliances between public and private sectors, and didn't let its industrial legacy become an excuse for stagnation. For policymakers, the lesson is clear. Don't just chase headlines or mega projects. Build the structures that ensure benefits are shared through apprenticeships, local business incentives, and robust environmental standards. Without these, you can spend billions and still leave your communities feeling left behind. Even for those watching from afar, the Firth story holds a crucial lesson. The global race for renewables is on, and it's being won or lost today, in places you may have never heard of. Every region, from Texas to Taiwan, faces its own version of this crossroads. The chance to shape the outcome belongs to those who show up and put pressure on their leaders to make the bold, sometimes risky, but necessary decisions. So after all this, does the gamble pay off? Is the Cromarty Firth green experiment working? The honest answer, it's too soon to declare victory or defeat. But the foundations are being laid, and the world is watching. What's clear is that the benefits are real, but not guaranteed. It's up to a relentless coalition, workers, policymakers, investors, and everyday citizens, to keep pushing for a future that's prosperous and fair. And here's a secret most people don't know. If the Cromarty Firth pulls this off, it won't just set a template for other ports or for Scotland. It could change the way the world thinks about industrial regeneration. The dry dock at Nigg was once the largest in the world, and now could become the heart of an entirely new industry. That's an echo of history waiting to be written. So, when you next see a headline about offshore wind, or a debate about the future of jobs or climate change, remember, the story on the ground is always more complicated and more inspiring than it first appears. If you found this journey through the Cromarty Firth's transformation enlightening, hit the subscribe button for more in-depth stories on innovation, industry, and the future we're all building together. Got thoughts on who should benefit most, or what should happen next? Share your opinion below.